This lesson is on the triangle inequality theorem. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the definition. So the definition says that the sum of the triangle's smaller sides must be greater than the larger side. So when I'm looking at this, I've got xy, yz, and xz. So xy plus yz has to be greater than xz for this to be a triangle. Now, the second part over here, we need to look at for something that we're going to talk about later. So I'm going to look at the sides. Let's look at xy, and I'm going to look at the angle that it's across from. So it's across from angle z. Side yz is across from angle x, and side xz is across from angle y. And you'll need to keep that in mind as we continue. So is it a triangle? Here's examples. So my smallest sides are 8 and 17. Now don't just assume that the first two, don't always assume that it's going to be the first two because they may try to throw you off. But here, 8 and 17 are the smallest. So 8 plus 17 has to be greater than 24 for this to be a triangle. Well, 8 plus 17 is going to be 25. 25 is greater than 24, so yes, this is a triangle. Now I want you to try the next two examples, and then we'll go over them. All right, going over these two examples, my smallest sides are 3 and 3. So 3 plus 3 has to be greater than 7. 6 is not greater than 7, so this is not a triangle. Looking at the next one, I've got my two smallest are 7 and 35. So 35 plus 7 has to be greater than 41. Well, 35 plus 7 is 42. 42 is greater than 41. So this is a triangle. The next thing we're going to talk about is the third side range. So we're going to figure out a range of numbers that the third side could be. So let's look at an example. So the first thing we're going to consider is that 3 and 11 could be the smallest two sides. So 3 plus 11 is 14. So then the third side would have to be less than 14. And we could also look at this a different way. 11 could be the biggest side, which means that 11 minus 3 is 8. So then that third side would have to be greater than 8. So then our third side can either be greater than 8 or less than 14. And the reason this works is because we have A plus B has to be greater than C. So if I look at that as A and B, then C has to be less than. But if I look at this as A and C, well, I would move that around. So B has to be greater than C minus A. So now I want you to try 28 and 31 and 24 and 7, and then we'll go over them. So here, if I assume that these are my smallest sides, that's 28 plus 31, which is 59. So x has to be less than 59. If I assume that 31 is the biggest side, then I know that x has to be greater than 3. So my inequality would be that x has to be greater than 3, but less than 59. Looking at this one, 24 and 7, if I assume that those are the two smallest, then 24 plus 7 is 31, so x has to be less than 31. If I assume that 24 is the biggest side, x has to be greater than that. So x has to be less than 17, or I'm sorry, greater than 17, but less than 31. Now we're going to look at ordering angles. So important rule, the smallest angle is always opposite the smallest side. The largest angle is always opposite the largest side. So I want you to try and order these from least to greatest, and then we will go over it. Important to remember, 17 is across from C. 20 is across from A. And 24 is across from B. So my smallest side is 17, which is across from C. My next side is 20, which is across from A. And my largest side is 24, which is across from B. So in order from least to greatest, it would be angle C, angle A, angle B. Now ordering sides, we're just going to do the flip side of that. The smallest side is always opposite the smallest angle. The largest side is always opposite the largest angle. Now before we can figure this one out, we're going to have to find that third angle. So I've got 59 plus 53, which is 112, and 180 minus 112 is going to give me 68. So now we're flipping the side rule. So small side, small angle. Big side, big angle. Try and order the sides from greatest to least. Now pay attention. That's saying greatest to least, not least to greatest. All right, so my smallest angle is 53. And that's across from DE. My next angle is 59. That's across from DF. And my largest angle is 68, and that's across from EF. But I want to flip them and do them from greatest to least. So the greatest one would be EF, then DF, then DE.